Hello, good afternoon. This is Lady Rumford, and I want to talk about this book that I read at a very interesting time in my life. It's by Jeanette Mcurdy, and it's called I'm Glad My Mom Died. I read this book at a very difficult time in my life. I had just lost my father, and I was trying to understand why anybody would be glad to lose a parent because, this world is very complex. The first thing I established with reading this book was that the title is not clickbait. The title is not clickbait. So for people who watched Nickelodeon growing up, Jeanette Mcurdy is an actress. She was on iCarly, and she also did Sam and Cat. I think she did that with Ariana Grande. Fantastic actress, stellar acting, beautiful girl, and everything. But it just goes to show you that behind the scenes, there's a lot of rubbish going on. So Jeanette talks about her childhood growing up as a child actress. And the first thing she says is that she did not want to act. She didn't like acting. But she has a mom who failed as an actress and decided that in her heart that her child will not only act, but she was going to live vicariously through that child, regardless of how the child felt or what it did to the child's life. Jeanette, I think, is a beautiful writer because she finds a way to describe and capture some of the most macabre occurrences in her life with a lot of humor. And it doesn't make it any lighter, but it just makes it slightly more palatable to read. She's a funny writer, and I hear the audiobook is even more fantastic. So those of you who can get the audiobook, please do. She described some of the most dark situations in her life. So for Jeanette, first of all, she grew up in a very dysfunctional family. And for the life of me, I cannot understand how she was surrounded by adults who saw this level of mishappenings and abuse and didn't do anything about it. I cannot wrap my head around it, but I guess that is life. Which just brings me to the fact that poverty is such a horrible thing because poverty blurs the lines. When you have a child who is the breadwinner of the family and parents who, I don't know, if they are not strong or are indecisive, so you as a beneficiary of your child's work, you cannot even stop the child from working because you need that child to work because you need to eat. It's so unfortunate, honestly. It's so unfortunate. Let me just even give an idea of some of the things that happened in the book. So Jeanette didn't want to act, and she started acting as young as 6. And because she was such a fantastic child actress, her parents actively participated in refusing her to grow up. Like, if they could, she would have remained, like, for lack of a better word, Aki and Popo, a child actress all her life. They didn't want her to grow because of the kind of roles, it was to their detriment, so to speak, if she matured and grew up. There was a lot of emotional blackmail because, like I said, she didn't like acting, but she said she didn't want to act. There was a lot of emotional blackmail. And then she grew up in a moment her mom was such a hoarder, and her mom was a weird character. Her mom was such a hoarder that they couldn't even sleep in their beds. Her and her siblings, they had to sleep on mats in the living room, in a very tiny corner in the living room because the mother keeps buying stuff and filling the house with stuff that nobody needs. She talks about the impartiality, the double standards, rather, that she encountered on set. Ariana Grande got to go on set, to go on tour, and have a music career. She could barely take a day off. So she was acting tired, exhausted, unable to rest, sick, suffering from an eating disorder, so unwell, so depressed. I think she even used to cough up red liquid. I don't want to say the word. And for me, one of the positives of this book, I think, is that it must have been very therapeutic for her to tell her story. Because the sadness that gripped me when I was reading this book, and I know that, yes, I read at the time where I was also going through my own stuff, but the sadness that gripped, because I cannot understand how one can have that kind of parent. It's a lot. It just leaves you gasping. It leaves you totally in shock. So anyway, basically the story is about her narcissistic mother and everything that she went through with that mom and how the mom, weaponized her sickness, weaponized her cancer, weaponized everything, and the relief that she felt when the mom eventually went to be with her maker. It's a fantastic read. I'm not going to rate this book. I refuse to rate the book simply because I think I don't qualify to rate somebody's life, especially with such dramatic happenings. Maybe if it was a more fun book, I may not have been, hesitant to rate it. I highly recommend it. I think it's a fantastic read. It's very introspective, and I really, really pray people who are going through stuff like this find help and relief and find their happiness. As for the Hollywood industry, those people need Jesus. That's all I'm going to say. Fantastic read. Thank you and have a wonderful day.